Hi, I'm Ben Cashell, and I work for Cargill Animal Nutrition, and we're proud to sponsor this Growing Through Showing adventure today.
Like everything that's important, your dreams need feeding. Cargill has been helping feed the dreams of dairy families for over a century. And when it comes to show season, Cargill knows the competition is tough. The Northeast Show Calf Pellet from Cargill is a high-protein show feed specifically designed to meet the growth needs of show heifers. Developed by our nutritionists, who know what it takes to make the first pull, the Northeast Show Calf Pellet from Cargill is fully fortified and enhanced with the right stuff to catch the judge's eye. You can learn more about how Cargill is helping feed the dreams of our dairy customers at www.cargill.com/dairydreams.
So now we're going to talk a little bit more as we get closer to the show season. What other things can we affect other than, we obviously want them tall. We want them good start and tall. What else are we affecting with nutrition that'll affect the show or placing in the show ring? Yeah. Yep, dairiness. So their overall body condition. Yep. What else? What's that? Yeah. So strength. I tie that into like that depth and spring to their rib, right? That overall rib and capacity, right? So we can affect both those things with the nutrition as well as how tall they are. But what we really need to understand is how to track it, how to watch that body condition. So we got them a good start, and every animal's different, but we really got to start watching their condition, especially after 6 months old, especially as we get closer and closer to show season. So one thing that can really help with that is just clipping the hair off. So that way you can see their thighs and the prominence out over the chine and over the rump, how much weight they have there. Does that make sense? So as you get closer to show season here, you're going to want to clip them every few weeks, like maybe every 6 weeks or something like that, just so that you can have a data point and say, I clipped her 6 weeks ago and she was a little too heavy. I adjusted the diet accordingly, and now I'm clipping her again and she looks better. So I either keep it the same or maybe just adjust it a little bit, tweak it each time. But it gives you some points to look at. Does that make sense? So that'll help a lot. But as we get closer to show season, actually to the shows, the energy level of the rations is going to become really important. We're going to have to really watch that. How many weeks until you guys' local shows, the summer shows? Anyone know? Huh? Yeah, so I measure it in weeks. My wife thinks I'm crazy, but I know that it's like 11 and a half weeks until our county fair starts. And that's important because I'm going to adjust the diets as we get closer and closer, particularly for that last 6 weeks. Because I'm trying to get maximum growth because I want to have a heifer that's tall enough. But as I get close in that last 6 weeks, I'm going to take that little bit of extra condition that was on her, trying to get maximum growth. I had just a little bit extra cover on her. I'm going to pull that off in that last 6 weeks. So I'm going to reduce the energy level, right? So I got to keep track of where I'm at. So I know it's like 11 and a half weeks. She thinks I'm crazy. It's all right. But anyway, as we're adjusting these diets, we're still going to use those same two feeds that John was telling us about, that 18% grower and then the 40% show feed that we were talking about earlier. They've been on that since they were like 5 months old. We're just going to adjust the rates of each. So we're still going to be in that, somewhere around half and half or better, more. So leaning more now to a more aggressive side on the show feed, more 40%. And then as in that last 6 weeks, we're also going to reduce the total amount of green. We were talking 6 to 8 pounds. As we get closer in those last 6 weeks, we might get down to 4 pounds or even down to 2, depending on the heifers and their age and their overall condition, provided that she's big enough and growing well. What about beet pulp? Who's feeding beet pulp at home? Anybody feeding it right now? Probably not. We're not real close to show season, right? So what would be a problem with feeding beet pulp too far in advance of the show? Huh? Yeah, right? So it's got a lot of sugar and digestible fiber in it. So we're trying to control the energy level. And feeding beet pulp is kind of counterintuitive because it's got a little bit of too much energy for controlling the energy of the ration like we want to. So really good. So the key is that you want them to eat it to get that spring of rib at the show. So you might feed it to them for a few days or a week before the show, but you really don't want to be feeding it overall, from the rest of the year. So I only use it on days to fill show heifers. Another key point as we're getting closer to show season is that we're talking about these aggressive diets and lowering feed rates. That's going to not be the case for your March calves. Why would that be?
Because they're young for showing, like they're the youngest.
Yeah, the youngest age. So whenever I'm showing in July at my county fair, that calf's really only going to be, what, 3-4 months old, maybe? You know, depending on when your county fair is. But she's not going to be much more than 3 or 4 months. So that's that critical transition period that John was telling us about. We want to really be careful through that period. So we're not going to get near as aggressive. The nice part is that because they're still growing so well, they'll thin down faster. So we don't have to get so aggressive. But just keep that in mind. March calves are kind of a different story than what we're talking about here. As we get closer to show season, hay quality is just extremely important. It's important all the time, but in here we have that, you know, Timothy hay works best. You know, grass hays really are what you want. You want that coarse, mature first cutting hay, right? Whether it's Timothy or an orchard grass or whatever kind of grass mix you got, you want it to be that late cut, low sugar, high fiber, really low energy hay. So the interesting part to me is, I find it interesting anyway, is that sugar content can vary a lot in some of these hays. So if you're really struggling getting that last little bit of weight off of your calves, sometimes you can go back and look at the hay and it's a little higher in sugar than what you were thinking. So you need to adjust the diets even lower in energy as far as grain goes to make up that difference. Does that make sense? Cool. Washing animals regularly. I put that along with clipping, something that we got to do pretty often. It's also a really good time to monitor body condition whenever you're washing them. Between that and air movement, you guys already went to facilities, right? You guys already saw that. So what would washing animals and having good air movement over them, what would that help us in terms of nutrition, what we're talking about here? Yeah.
I was thinking the hair growth.
Yeah, hair growth helps. Yeah, we enjoy that. Yep, that helps. Yep.
Keep them eating.
Yeah, so it keeps them eating, but what else would it do for us? Yeah.
It helps airflow so they're healthy.
Yeah, it keeps them healthy, but the one cool part that it does is it allows us to feed some of that energy because they're going to burn some of that off whenever they're cool, whenever they get cold. Even when it's June, if you got a 60-degree evening, you go wash your heifer and you put it underneath the big fans you got in the show barn, she's in there almost shivering, right? So it helps burn off a little bit of that energy and get us down a little bit. What else could you do to burn a little energy on some of these heifers? Walk them a lot. Yeah, that takes a little more exercise. I tend to wash them, but, you know, it... So that gets us through to some of that show season. And one other area that we need to talk about, though, is these yearlings. So this is your calves that you showed last year. You know, let's say you had a December calf last year. It did really well at the All-American Dairy Show or State Fair. You got her back home. What do you do with her in the fall? You know, you got to start working with her then to plan for this year. The opportunity that is right then to put her back on a little bit more grain. We were talking about that aggressive diet. Maybe she was a heavy heifer and I only had her on 3 pounds of show heifer or 4 pounds of show heifer per day last fall to keep her thin enough for the shows, right? Now I get her back home, it's October, I got until spring to show her again. I'm gonna put her back on like 6 pounds of show heifer to make sure I get as much gain in height as I can over the next few months, because I'm not gonna show her for a while. But the key is knowing then to start thinning her back down in time. So we talked about that 6 weeks, right, before the county fair on some of those calves. How long do you think we need to start ahead on some of these heifers, some of the yearlings? So I figure it's 6 months. I remember 6 weeks and 6 months. So your county fairs are in like July, so that puts us clear back in January or February. We need to start. Yeah, question? Yeah, I like 6. Yep. So you want to start that early, right? You want to decrease the energy rate in February. What's the other advantage of starting in February as opposed to May or June? It's cold. Yeah, so they'll pull a little weight off easier whenever it's cold out. So it gives you a chance to get them right back into the condition that you're looking for. So there's the point there on the, you have till February. I say January, February, yeah, to start thinning them back down. But the key really is not to let them get too heavy. You got them home last fall. Don't let them get heavy, or if you have a calf for this year, when you get her home this fall, don't let her get heavy, because it'll be much easier to keep it off than it will be to try and take it off next spring. It was brought up earlier, the mineral supplementation there. That someone asked me earlier about jerseys. I don't know what all breeds everyone has, but jerseys are particularly hard to keep thin. So that's where sometimes you got to reduce that feeding rate so low on these grains, even the show heifer, to keep those jerseys in the condition that you want them in, that you may need to supplement a little mineral to make sure they're getting the mineral they need without the calories from the grain. That's another key point. But there again, the environment's really extremely, extremely important. So we just got the quick points here. The energy and protein are equally important for those calves under 4 months of age, through those the milk calf months. 4 to 10 months of age is a time of rapid and aggressive growth. You got to scale your diets back during show season. That's what we talked about at 6 weeks for some of those calves, 6 months for some of the yearlings, right? You really got to pull them back. Tailor each diets to each individual, so you really got to know each heifer and adjust them accordingly. Beat pulp only during show months, or just during the shows, not for months on end. And just don't ever let them get fat, and everything's a lot easier. But so one thing that I really wanted to stress to you guys, though, is that you really need to monitor this stuff so that you know how your success is. I can give you all these ranges and everything, and it works really good, right? You go home and you follow my instructions exactly, and it might not work the same for you as it did for me or for the next guy, right? So you need to really keep track of, we talked about monitoring condition, and that's a hard thing to do. What about monitoring height? So we talked about that period of rapid growth. What do you guys think is a amount of growth I can get on a heifer? So I got a heifer born in September, so she's a fall calf for this coming year. I'm getting ready to show her this summer. I measured her March 1st to see how tall she was, right at the loin. April 1st, I measured her the same spot. How many inches do you think she can grow in 1 month during that? Keep in mind, that's right in the middle of that 4 to 10 month range. Yeah.
4 or 5.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. 3? Okay, that'd be a huge growth spurt. Any other guesses? Yeah.
2 or 1.
Yeah, so like 1 to 2 inches, right? So in that maximum growth range, my target is I would love to get 1.5 inches to 2 inches every month. Doesn't always happen. So if I can get at least 1, and hopefully for a little bit more each month, it'll keep me right on track. What about a yearling for this year? That winter yearling we were talking about earlier that I brought home, winter calf from last year, kept her on an aggressive diet through the winter, but now I started thinning her down because I started thinning her down in February. What kind of growth rate do you think I can get on her? She's not maximum rate anymore.
Like 1/2 inch.
Yeah, so if I get 1/2 inch a month, that's doing pretty good. I might get 1 inch every now and then, but I'm banking on 1 inch or 1/2 inch each month there. It's kind of what I'm hoping for. So it's just, set goals, but you got to measure it. You don't have to do it every month, but write it down, put the date beside it so you know that, geez, it's been 6 weeks since I measured him. When I measured him again, I gained 2 inches. So is that where I should be or not? You got to do that so that you can, not only that, but the body condition so that you can adjust these diets accordingly. Because each heifer is going to be different. But if you're not tracking it, you can't make the adjustments like you need to.